Hello and welcome to Hot Money Technicals on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. This is a show which gets you a complete wrap of all the stocks that are buzzing in trade. I'm Darshan Mehta. Let's welcome our experts then, Dyaneshwar Padwal of KIFS Securities, along with technical analyst and mentor NS Vidai, and Raja Venkatraman of Chart Advice join me on the show. Many thanks to all my guests for joining me. But before we begin with the show with our analysts, let's bring in Yash Upadhyay, who has a chart on Eicher Motors. Good afternoon, Yash. Yesterday, Eicher was down in trade, but what does the chart indicate now?
Well, there is significant amount of pressure on Eicher Motors, Darshan, for the last, several trading sessions is what we are seeing. And this is how the chart looks like on the daily time frame. And what we are seeing over here is a triangle breakdown on the daily charts for Eicher Motors. As you could see, the stock has been falling for the last 7 trading sessions. So it's been a perfect week in terms of downfall for Eicher Motors. And with that, it has most importantly come off from a very strong support zone. So take a look at this red horizontal line, the red dotted line for that matter, and at the mark of 21,000 it has twice come to those levels and has taken a support at that mark and moved higher, but this time around it's managed to break below that mark, and we've seen volumes too being substantially higher. Some of these auto names they have been big underperformers of recently because of the kind of numbers that we have received for the month of December. We saw while the passenger vehicles have done well, the two-wheelers and the commercial vehicles didn't do very well, and as a result of it, Bajaj Auto as well as Eicher Motors remain under pressure. Eicher Motors currently looking extremely weak. The ADX indicator too is suggesting a negative call. So the minus DMI line, which is the one in red color, that has crossed above the plus DMI line as well. So both of these factors, the triangle breakdown as well as the ADX indicator, suggesting that there is further weakness in the counter. One could look to go short in it at current levels or on rise, but a move or a closing above the mark of 21,000 would negate the view.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Eicher Motors. Thanks so much for that, Yash. Dyaneshwar, what's your sense? Do you sense weakness in Eicher Motors?
Yeah, Darshan, well, no doubt about that, because recently we have seen the stock has given a pullback towards the 22,700, 800 mark, and after that it has given a bearish rally, and important support was placed near 20,700, 800, and that has been broken. But at the current market price, risk-reward ratio is not favorable. I would advise traders to wait for a pullback towards the 20,700, 800 level, so that could be a great selling opportunity.
Okay, sell on rise is something that Dyaneshwar is saying. Vidai, what's your sense?
Yeah, same. I would agree with Dyaneshwar and Yash also. It is looking weak, very weak on the chart, but right now it is very near to its 200 EMA. So one can look out for trading shorts on the upside between 20,650 and 20,750, and keep a tight stop loss about 2,900. Can expect 19,450 approximately in that area.
And Raja, you share a similar view?
Yeah, if you see track the charts on the daily time frame which Yash has taken, after forming a high in October, it actually made a triple top. You can take it as a triple top or a channel breakdown. So the channel targets are somewhere in the region of around 2,000 points. And the way the chart structure is there and the momentums are also in place, I would recommend that one should short now and also use rallies like my colleague suggested. But then one should not miss this opportunity because it's a very clear sell which is on the cards.
Okay, so I think consensus view that's coming in, a clear indication of weakness on Eicher Motors. First up, let's create the chart from Dyaneshwar. It's on Tata Power this time around. Let's see what the counter has done. It has been rather weak this time around, but what are you sensing? You sense a bounce back here?
Yeah, Darshan, well, if you look at the overall chart structure, so we have seen that a good bullish rally has been initiated by the Tata Motors, and rally has been stopped near about 2007 in level of 140, and after that the stock has taken a 50% Fibonacci retracement, and you know, from the 2008 to 2019, almost 10 to 11 years, the stock is consolidating in a descending triangle. So right now Tata Motor is placed at Tata Power is placed near about the 55, 56 marks, where the descending triangles horizontal support is taking place. And if you look at the overall chart structure, stock has taken a multiple time support over here, so that would be a very strong support for the Tata Motor. And if the current market price would be a buying opportunity, so I'll keep a stop loss of 10 rupees near about 45 rupees. So it will give a good risk reward ratio. And simultaneously, if you look at the RSI also given a multiple years support, so that is a good buying opportunity. My stop loss is very narrow towards the 10 rupees, but the stock stock is initiated the rally, so there might be a possibility stock may hit towards the upper trend line, upper head resistance of the descending triangle that would be placed at 85. So risk reward ratio is quite favorable.
Okay, risk reward and with a 10 rupees stop loss with targets of close to anywhere 85. Between 80 to 85 to 90, yes. 80, 85. Okay, thanks so much for that, Dyaneshwar. Vidai, would you go long on Tata Power?
Well, seriously, I would not go long short because the stock is consolidating for a very long time, hasn't performed well, and looking at economic factors like, the slowdown in the economy plus very low kind of production facility, movement happening. I believe the stock is a trade only, and I don't look at it as an investment bet right now. So one can buy this around dips on 54 and keep a tight stop loss below at 53.50. On the upside, 59 is a resistance. If it crosses 59, then you can expect it to go to 68 approximately.
Okay, so it's a trading bet, not an investment bet. A very narrow stop loss on the counter. Raja, what's your sense on Tata Power?
Looking at the chart structure, I feel that it is making an attempt to move higher, but like NS rightly pointed out, at 59 levels, there is continuous supply emerging. And overall, the momentum is also not in favor of an advance right now, and the stagnation period is quite substantial, and which makes me hold back on either on the short side or on the long side.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Tata Powers. That's the first stock that we spoke about. The next chart is NS Vidai with this chart on Spark. Obviously, over the past few days, it has been rather active, if I'm not wrong. Yes, has moved from levels to almost 160 currently. It seems it's like a bullish call. What's your assessment here?
Well, if you look at these two, lines, these are moving averages. One is 50 and one is 200. The stock is taking support right now at 50 and 200 is acting as a resistance. Stock has, if you look at this whole structure, it is also like a triangle. If you put a trend line from here, it's almost like today has given a small move, and on a weekday, it is maintaining some positive momentum. So any crossover beyond today's high can take it much higher also, above 166, 167. And on the downside, one can accumulate this up to 154 and keep a tight stop loss below 150. And what I'm seeing is it's actually a big triangle. If you look at this whole structure, so this is a triangle and it's a huge one. Has a target of something like, on the upside 200 minimum. And I'm giving this also as a long-term investment, not really long-term, but once it starts moving up, it moves up very sharply. So we can expect 200 in maybe 2 months' time, and maybe 250 around in 6 months' time. Okay,
has the move, the last 4-5 days we've seen supported by volumes?
Volumes are missing. That is what we are watching out for. So moment you see a price move with volume, that would give a breakout. Till then, we have to either buy on dips. So dips, the consolidation area doesn't have that kind of volume play, but breakout needs to be always supported by volume.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Ines. Dyaneshwar, what's your sense on Spark?
Yeah, well, Darshan, if you look at the higher time frame charts, mainly on weekly, so stock has made a double bottom formation near about 112 mark, and right now it is poised for an initial leg of move towards the 200, but intermediate resistance placed near 170, so stock need to cross the 170 level. If it is breaks the 170, then one should go definitely go long for an initial leg of move towards the 200.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in. And Raja, what's your sense?
Yeah, the rise since November has actually now getting stuck at the 170 mark, and at the 170 level what we are seeing is an ascending triangle formation, which is a signal of a bullish intent. So yes, I am with NS on the bullish side, but I would wait for a breakout above 170 where it could actually take the targets towards 200.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Spark, positional call that's coming in. And the third chart that we have is Raja, and a chart on Ratnamali Metals. I don't think we've covered this counter. If I'm not wrong, it's trading at a 52-week high, 1,150 currently. Why this chart?
Yeah, if you take a look at this chart, I have used the weekly chart here first, and you can see here that the stock went into a period of consolidation over the last 6 months. And then what I've used is a tool called as Bollinger Band, which indicates an expansion in volatility. You can see here that the prices are tagging the upper end of the band, which is a signal of some bullish momentum in play. And the other factor to note was on I have used two momentum indices here. panels. You can see here the middle panel is the RSI, where RSI never was able to cross the 70 for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And what has happened is over the last 2 weeks, it has managed to cross the 70, which is indication of a strong momentum in play. Further, there is a third momentum indicator which I have used. Let me just pull that up for you. You can see here the ADX DMI is also very strongly, resolutely indicating that the bulls are very much in play, and that's what is taking the stock higher even on a negative day like today. The stock is witnessing some strong buying interest. So there's also a daily chart which also added. It's there online. Yeah. So you can see here the daily chart. The daily chart says that prices were moving in the lower end of the channel. I use a tool called as a pitchfork, and what has happened is after it has moved up towards the end of December, price has managed to hold on. And right now what has happened is price has reached at the upper end of the channel. Overall structure of the charts remain bullish. One could use to buy at current levels, use dips towards, I had mentioned 1030 in the morning. You can use a dip towards 1080, which is the next set of support levels, and aim for a target of 1285.
1285, what's the time frame approximately?
In the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, thanks so much for that. 1285 is the level. Firai, what's your sense? Ratnamani Metals?
Actually, it has moved up today very strongly, and overall it has gone into lifetime highs. So basically, if you is carrying this stock, may carry it with a stop loss below 1000. But those who have entered the trade maybe today or in last few days can keep a stop loss below 1050.
Can they enter today also?
I would say enter around 1110 approximately in that area, and keep a stop loss below 1065.
Okay, and what's your sense on this, Dyaneshwar?
Yeah, in the recent scenario, stock is moving in a clear uptrend, and the price once the momentum starts, price tends to remain in a motion more or less in the same direction until and unless it breaks the previous swing low. So anyone wants to buy, or anyone has having a already position in this stock, so they can keep a tight stop loss of 1080, because that was an previous swing low. If it is breaks, then we may see the stock may fall further. But till now we are saying that advising the hold the position with the stop loss of 1080.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Ratnamani Metals. Let's begin with the second round of charts with Dyaneshwar. He has a chart on Biocon. Biocon of late has corrected massively. It has fallen from the highs of 300, but nevertheless over the past 3 days at least, this must be a higher time frame. For the past 3 days on the news of investment in the subsidiary, which was lower than what the market anticipated, the counter corrected in excess of 300 to 280 currently. What's your sense?
Listen, here we are doing a multi-time frame analysis, where first we look at the monthly charts, that is in higher time frame charts. If you look at the higher time frame chart, stock is moving in a clear uptrend, and recently the stock has corrected from 350 to almost 210.20 level. So it has given a more than 61.8% retracement of the previous fall. And if you can compare the price with the RSI, so here we are getting a hidden divergence, wherein the RSI is making new low, but stock is not managed to new low. So this is the scenario of the higher time frame. It's still indicating the chart is still bullish. And if you go to the lower time frame, that is a daily time frame charts. So here you can see right now the bottom formation has placed near about 220 level, and stock is moving again in a clear uptrend. And here we can see this breakout has been happened, and after that the stock has corrected and taking a support of that breakout. So the stock will come to that breakout. That level is 275, 278. So that would be a great buying opportunity. So any dips comes toward this 275. So that could be capitalized as a good buying opportunity. Keep a stop loss of 250. And if you look at the RSI of the daily, so here the one thing is clearly observe on the RSI, that RSI is shifting their range and giving the kickstart to the price. Okay. Earlier RSI is moving towards in the range of 60 to 40 between, and after that after the price has got the breakout, and RSI has shifted their range towards the 75 to 55. So that would be a bullish momentum has been seen on the RSI. So this is a great buying opportunity. Keep a stop loss of 250 for an initial leg of up move towards the 360. That could be an uncharted territory.
Okay, so positive call coming in on Biocon. Buy on dips is something that Dyaneshwar is speaking about. Raja, what's your sense on Biocon? Would you be a buyer?
Yeah, I would agree with Dyaneshwar on this point, that ever since the rise began in September, it has been steadily making higher lows, and what it has formed in the process, it has moved in a ascending channel formation. And right now the dips which we saw in the last 2 days have actually come down to the lower end of the channel. So it makes it a good opportunity for us to buy, because around 285 levels, with a stop loss below 275, you can target somewhere in the region of around 310 to 315 on the upside, because it's a very low risk reward, and I would be a buyer in Biocon.
Okay, and what's your sense on this, Vidai?
Well, I would prefer to buy this on dips, but would not be happy to buy below 285. Like if it starts trading below 285, then there is a possibility that it can go deeper. And on the upside, it needs to cross beyond 292. Once it does that, probably we can see a target of around 304, 305 in extreme short term. But I'm looking at it as a trading bet rather than an investment call.
Okay, that's the call that's coming in on Biocon. The next chart is by NS Vidai, and it's a chart on Interglobe Aviation, highly dependent on crude prices, and that's how it's reacting over the past few days. Today, I think, has managed to come back almost into the green, but what are you recommending here?
Well, if you look at this whole structure, the stock fell very sharply before because of the management issues and whatever, and after that it has started. See, the fall was very sharp to this area. Then it started consolidating. The fall started becoming more sluggish, and right now, if you see, after falling continuously up to this areas, it has gone sideways. Now this is where it is making a very good kind of breakout out of the falling wedge. Even today also it made a very good attempt, and came exactly to the support area, and from there again made a good move. And we are looking at probably a probability of a breakout here. And the possibilities are like, we can see this, it's a breakout out of wedge. Okay. And there is some positive and probably some announcement expected very shortly. Let's see what happens from the corporate side. So chart is indicating there is something, good can happen. If the stock is able to cross beyond above 1400, then you can expect a very strong momentum up to 10% on the upside, minimum 1540. One can buy right now also and add on dips up to 1330.
Okay.
And keep a stop loss below today's low of 1320.
Okay. 1320 is the stop loss for the counter. Okay, thanks so much for that. Dyaneshwar, Interglobe Aviation.
Yeah, this stock would be a great bet on the risk-reward ratio part, because recently we've seen this stock has corrected from 1880 levels towards the 1270, and it has given a quick pullback towards the 1350 mark, and current market price is in good buying opportunity. One can keep a tight stop loss of 1325 on closing basis, and for an initial leg of up move towards the 1420.
Okay, and what's your sense on this, Raja?
Yeah, overall chart structure are indicating some revival from the recent decline, and I would wait for a move above 1360, where the RSI would also move beyond the neutral zone, and we could expect some more bullishness kicking into this counter. Once it happens, then it could be a good trading and a multi-day bet. Okay,
and the last chart from our guest this time around is a chart by Raja, and it's on KPR Mills. So it's a stock that we've never covered before, as was Ratnamani Metals. But what makes you bullish on the counter?
So this is a weekly chart which we have considered. You can see here that right now, after forming a base, it's made a double bottom here, and the double bottom breakout which occurred in somewhere in the month of October, it has managed to sustain these prices for a while. And right now, even considering the bullish candles which are being displayed, it indicates that the bulls are willing to hold on to this valuation area around 650. So it becomes a good point of support where the prices are consolidating and moving higher. So it's becoming the next base. So it's actually having a base, it's creating a new base right now. And if you take a look at the momentum indicator, which on the lower panel, you will see here that RSI is slowly and steadily inching higher. And here too, RSI has crossed above 70 mark, which is indicating more bullishness stepping into the counter. So all this price as well as the momentum in combination suggests that we could be looking at higher levels in the coming weeks.
Okay, well, buy at this level and buy on dips, is that the strategy?
Yes, buy at level, buy on dips towards that level of 650. You could see in the price, and place a stop loss below 625 for an upside towards 740, 775.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Raja. Fidai, what's your sense on KPR Mills?
Yeah, it's a the setup is very good. It's a flag breakout. If you look at it, it has consolidated for almost 1.5 to 2 months, and from there it is trying to give a breakout. Only concern here is the volumes are very low. It's an illiquid counter. So if people want to buy momentum here, they would need to wait for it to cross beyond 720, 725, and if it crosses, then you can expect the target around 850ish. On the downside, one can buy on dips up to 675 or between 675, 650, and keep a tight stop loss below 645.
Okay, what's your sense?
Yeah, I agree with Dennis because rightly we have seen on the higher time frame flag breakout has been given, and you know the volumes are quite less in this counter. So dips, buying on dips would be a great strategy for this counter.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in, and the final stock that's coming in is from Yash. He's back with his second chart, and this time is on the Cipla. Cipla, I think, has managed to bounce back in today's trade. They did manage to get some approval for their plant, but nevertheless, what are you reading into this chart?
So Darshan, pharma stocks did extremely well about a couple of months back. We saw them, come back in full force. Cipla being one of them. It came off from the levels of close to around 590 back in May of last year, all the way down to 390 sort of levels just a few months later in the month of October. And post that, we saw a nice bit of a rally, but at higher levels, it has been meeting with resistance. So what we've done is that we've drawn the Fibonacci retracement from that high to the low, and as you could see, at the mark of 50% is where it has come twice and has broken below that mark. So it's not able to surpass that level with conviction, and there is higher amount of resistance at that mark. Again, what we saw this time is the fact that it came to those levels for a third time, and then it has fallen back. Additionally, what we are trying to see over here, and this is still yet to happen, so it has not given a breakdown below its ascending triangle formation. So what is an ascending triangle? It is basically the high is going higher, but the flat top line that indicates basically resistance at that mark, which is the 50% of the Fibonacci retracement, and we are seeing that the stock has managed to come down to those levels. Should it manage to fall below that, even the trender indicator would trigger a negative signal, because currently the trender 2 is at the mark of 466. So a closing below this mark and a closing below the trend line as well would mean that there is potential for the stock to fall further from the current levels. The RSI 2, as you could see, while the price has remained in that zone, it has formed lower highs on the daily time frame. So the momentum indicators are too suggesting weakness for Cipla. So we'll have to wait and watch whether or not this plays out or not. But currently, it looks like the setup is extremely weak as far as Cipla is concerned. Okay, that's the view that's coming in. Weak setup. What's your sense on Cipla?
In case of Cipla, see, a very good bearish setup has been made, but stock need to close below 460 marks, because the triangle formations lower trend line support has taken by the stocks, and if it is closed below the 460 marks, then only one can go short in this counter by keeping a stop loss of 470 for an initial leg of down move towards the 440, because that would be a very strong support again.
Okay, what's your sense of that?
Well, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I agree with Yash, and it's making higher bottoms, as he rightly suggested. And even in so much volatility, the stock is consolidating actually and not falling quite sharply. So that shows there is some kind of strength here, and one can hold this stock with a tight stop loss below 464. On the upside, we can expect the price to go up to 485 first thing. If it crosses 490, 495, then you can expect even 550 also.
Okay, and what's your sense?
If it tracks the charts of Cipla over the last 5-6 weeks, it has been moving in the range of 450 to 500. So it's actually a little bit undecided right now. So I would wait for these levels to give away before taking any clue on Cipla. So I would like to stay away from Cipla at the moment.
Okay, that's the view that's coming in on Cipla at this point of time. But with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of Hot Money. Many thanks to all of my guests who've come in, Raja, Fidai, as well as Dyaneshwar. Thank you so much for coming in. Ask BQ comes up next. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.